We're living through a very unique time when, as Andreessen says, software is eating the world. We're undergoing a phase shift where technology, rather than just being adopted by knowledge workers, is being adopted by everybody. This transition that we're going through means that it's a gold rush era in technology. If you happen to be living in one of the technology hub cities, there's only a handful of those. And if you have to ask if you're in one of them, then you probably aren't. Usually it's obvious when you're living in one of them. There'll be hundreds of startups at least within that city. There'll have been some exits. There'll have been some people who got rich off of it. If you're living in a tech hub and you're in the tech industry, you're already halfway there. That's half the battle. You are well positioned to angel invest. And if you're in the tech industry and you're not living in the tech hub, then you should consider moving to a tech hub unless there are strong lifestyle reasons that keep you away, such as family or quality of life, which often is higher outside of the technology hubs. So getting into the tech hubs to do the angel investing is half the battle. You can do it remotely, but the odds are stacked against you. You don't have the trust networks. You don't see enough of the deal flow. So then it's better to work through a proxy, like investing in a trusted friend's venture fund or going through AngelList or coming in for YC Demo Day and so on.
You think this is just for people in Silicon Valley, or does this apply in New York? Does it apply in Seattle, Austin, China, Bengaluru?
I think it applies in probably about a dozen, 2 dozen cities around the world. The thing that's hard here is that some of these cities are emerging and some are not. Seattle is probably pretty stable. Austin's pretty stable. You can probably find good deals there, but you really have to see everything and you have to have access to everything and realize that maybe there's 1 or 2 great ones that'll be created there every year. Silicon Valley is a little more forgiving in that there's maybe 20 or 30 great companies being created every year, and you just need to get access to one of those from a larger pool, of course. Some place like Bengaluru or maybe even Kuala Lumpur, these might be up and coming cities, but then timing is hard. Is this when the city breaks through? Is this when the tech industry there breaks through? You're in Australia, if you invested in Canva, great. Or if you invest in Atlassian, great. But if not one of those two, then there's not as much of a pool. So timing becomes a lot harder, but at the same time, your returns can potentially be a lot higher because there's less competition, the valuations are lower, the risks are higher. What you don't want to be doing is sitting in a city that doesn't have a history of producing good startups, where you only see 1 or 2 startups a year. You invest in half of them and you're paying Silicon Valley prices because they're looking at Y Combinator Demo Day and keying off of the valuations there. It's certainly much safer and easier to get started in San Francisco or New York or Beijing or Shanghai or Bengaluru. If you're a pro, you can play in London, Austin, Seattle, Denver, Boulder, Chicago, etc. Anything below that, and you better know what you're doing. We definitely have seen this phenomenon on AngelList where angel investors have been investing locally in a city that is not producing good tech startups will basically surrender and then start investing through AngelList into Bay Area startups. And they just see the quality and the returns are so much higher.
What's the best indicator that a startup hub is working? Is it exits? Is it a thriving community of other angel investors?
Unfortunately, it's exits. The normal angel investing dynamic starts with founders start a company does well, founders and early employees get rich in the IPO or the acquisition, and then they start investing money in their friends and engineers and designers and marketers who work with them at their company. And they feel a lot more comfortable doing this early investing because that's how they made their money. They made their money through tech startups, so they want to put it back into tech startups. There's a lot of false starts where you'll have a lot of angel investors pop up in an area and they'll invest in a bunch of companies, but then those companies get stranded because there's no Series A or Series B VCs there to invest in them. Or because there's only 1 or 2 Series A or Series B VCs, when they come in, they pay low valuations, they wipe out the early investors. They convert them to common, they cram them down, they put warrants on top. So funding markets to some extent develop in reverse. The least risky investments are mezzanine rounds right before the company goes public. The next least risky investments are Series Ds and Series Cs. Then more riskier Series Bs, even more riskier Series A, and the most riskier angel investing. So in a weird way, angel investing is the thing that should develop last. That's not always the case because if a company can break out with just angel money, then later stage money will find it almost no matter where it is. Or that company can move to a later stage hub. But now you have a big gap between your investment and then when the next investor is going to show up. And that means the company has to get really, really far and very little money.